Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you a new YouTube video. So we're looking at Bitcoin to start with today, and what we can see is Bitcoin on the daily is just respecting a range, and like if we go even smaller than this, like to the hourly, the fixed range volume. We've talked about this for a while. We've just been flirting with the fixed range volume for ages now, and there isn't much to report in terms of time and price action because whilst you're in a range, as you guys know, price goes sideways and the ranges can last for a long time. I'm just trying to delete this so I can show you a bit of a better picture behind me. There we go. Let's just take us to the daily now, and I'm going to talk to you about ranges. And this doesn't mean this is what I think is going to happen, because I don't. But if we look in this period, this range lasted for 60 days, and we could realistically say that this range was inclusive of this range. So the wider range lasted realistically for, before we got the break to the upside, 240 days. Now, I think this is like an impulsive move and then a consolidation for the next impulsive move. So at some point, in my opinion, it's not going to fluctuate too much, and it will probably continue to the upside from here. What we're seeing is RSI is cooling off, but prices staying prices holding the same level. This obviously gives the RSI more space to the upside. I don't think it's ultimately that bearish, as the pattern is a continuation pattern. Some people might claim that other momentum is waning while price is staying there as an indication of what's to come next. I don't think so. I think we probably go up in price next. And I'm going to bring in a narrative from a narrative to back that up. So tomorrow is Wednesday, and Jerome Powell speaks FOMC tomorrow. He talks about whether we're going to have rate cuts. I don't think there's a meeting in August, so the next one after that I think is September, because I think they go for like recess or whatever in August, and we're obviously in July now. So he's going to talk tomorrow about rate cuts. And one thing that I think is quite likely, whether we get cuts or not, and I think there might be a surprise, there might be, but I'm more leaning towards that we won't get rate cuts. But what I do think is that something has changed since since Trump went to visit Powell at the Fed, kind of tried to embarrass him on TV. His narrative towards Powell has been very different, saying that he's like a good man, whereas before he was saying that he was an idiot, literally saying that he was stupid, and now he's saying that he's not. So I think they probably have come to some sort of agreement, whether that's Powell leaves on good terms at the end of his term, or that Powell's going to give some dovish verbiage tomorrow. I don't know, but that's why I've started to really layer my chips today. Obviously not just that. I think price action at some point is going to continue to the upside, as I started the video with. I think this is a continuation pattern. But I think it's quite likely that we see some sort of catalyst from something like that maybe tomorrow. So that's why I started laying my chips, and obviously I'm hitting Doge quite hard at the minute. We've talked about it in the newsletter. I think that there's a fair chance that Doge does pretty well this cycle, and it's just basically accumulating to the upside. And even if you just draw like a broadening wedge pattern on this, we've touched the bottom, and where's the top coming in? I've got my take profit at like 114. So if we get that rip, which is what I think is going to come next, I also do think that we probably outperform that pattern there that I just showed you, and probably hit a full 4.236 extension. I don't see why we wouldn't. We've done it previously. And I think that there's a lot more capital to rotate into alts, and I think a lot more capital is going to come into the markets imminently. Also, tomorrow, remember that we're having the published report from the American government about cryptos and a strategic reserve. So that could be another catalyst, positive or negative. Again, I don't know, but something else to watch out for. So looking at trading different, I'm just going to look at XRP quickly. I'm just going to zoom in. It's on the hourly. We could see a low sweep here for XRP. We're starting to see some liquidity build up on the hourly. I don't think we'll go as far as down as 263, but there is potential to see like 292 as people have jumped in with leverage since we've been chopping in this range. But ultimately 377 is where we'll probably head to. And then if we look at the daily time frame, above us towards like all-time highs, like 420 sort of area, is 412 all the way up to 425 is where the deep liquidity is, and you can't even see the hourly liquidity on here because there is very little right now. So whether we come down a little bit more or not, again, I don't know. I'm just DCAing and buying into altcoins because I'm going to show you XRP actually on Velo as well. What we can see, I'm going to take us to the daily first and bring us back into the hourly. What we can see is actually the open interest has started to cool off a little bit from the top, and we're starting to flip negative again on premium, which shows that like people who were long into the market are less interested now, and people are starting to flip to shorts. And oftentimes when this happens, it just balance out of open interest, and it's positive for the next leg up because it gives more people to be able to flip back to being bullish, and it means that a lot of short positions can be squeezed out. So the other thing I wanted to point out to you guys is the funding rate has flipped negative a few times historically, obviously, or a lot of times historically, but hasn't for a while since we've been on this expansion from 225 up to 360, and then this consolidation since then. We haven't actually seen funding rates flip negative again. We've got really close recently, but what we can see from the times where it has flipped negative is that that's pretty much where the bottoms have come in. So if we just zoom into these areas, if you just look at the bottom of my screen, just look at, I'll get rid of the open interest and everything just for now, so we can just literally focus on funding rates. But also remember that premium is also flipping negative. If we just look to where we are now, look. So premium's heavily negative, and that is another indicator that there's obviously more shorts than longs in the market, but or more bias towards shorts. So what we can see is here, look, is one time when funding flipped negative, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here. Do you see what I'm trying to say? I'm just trying to show you that when funding flips negative, it's often a marker of the bottom, and when it gets super positive, like here, it's often a marker that we're a bit overcooked. It's when more people are coming in to the long side, and we're probably a bit overcooked. But look what we can see literally here is that we very nearly got negative again, and we didn't, but we were really close. So whether that's enough or not, I don't know. But that's been a decent indicator in the past, and I haven't seen anyone really talking about that, so I wanted to show you that. And I've also obviously shown you trading different. The other thing I do want to show you is ETH, and some people don't like ETH, and it doesn't really matter. It's just about building a thesis. It doesn't matter whether you hold it, it doesn't matter whether you don't hold it. ETH is the biggest altcoin by market cap currently, and it looks like it's within touching distance of this liquidity. So at some point, in my opinion, it's going to take this liquidity. Whether it has to pull back first to get the momentum to go higher, I don't know. I would suggest it doesn't. Normally, when we get this close to liquidity, you just sweep it. Like if we got to this level here, we didn't really have to do. I guess we did. We pulled through deep liquidity first. Then we had a bit of a bounce, and then we saw more liquidity build, and we just sort of came down into it. So essentially, I think the next move is up. If we look at Bitcoin on trading difference, so the liquidity pool on the daily, is on the daily time frame. The next deep area of liquidity is up, and it's not far away. Like if we look percentage wise, we just break this range. It's only at 6-7% to the upside to take the majority of that liquidity. Even if we look and trading different now off of the S&P, even if we look at the S&P on the daily time frame, let's just take us to all the multiples on. We've got significant liquidity above us, and we're just wicking into it. So I'm looking for some potential catalysts, whatever that might be, and it could come from Jerome Powell. It could come from anything. We could see the S&P start to break out, which really makes crypto go mad. As I said yesterday, Dow Jones is like teetering on all-time highs. It hasn't broken out yet. Or it could be maybe from the crypto bill that is getting published tomorrow. I really don't know. But I'm looking for some sort of catalyst to propel us to the upside. I think that's what's coming. I think Flare Networks looks pretty flipping good here. I showed this pattern the other day. I said, look, we're close to this breakout. And if we look just for where candle closes are, we are actually breaking out. For Flare, and there's some other charts that show just slightly different structures. But Flare's starting to really excite me, being up 6.6% on the day, whilst everything has been teetering with being red. I think it's hold on to your hats time. I think if you want to allocate to alts, it's a good time to be doing it. We could have, as I said, a little bit of a flush to the downside. We could, for example, for XRP, we could sweep these lows here. We could just wick into that area, but we don't have to. So it's a very difficult position because look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin hasn't done anything while alts have been doing this, and you can see Bitcoin has just chopped around in a range realistically. Yes, obviously we have had pullbacks, but then we pushed back up and just chopped. And you can see that by Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance had a real spike up, meaning that Bitcoin has not really done anything because it hasn't increased in price. So it's not like it sucked liquidity away, whilst alts have done nothing. Well, alts have bled out and Bitcoin's done nothing. Sorry, that's what I meant. So does that mean that Bitcoin dominance won't continue higher? No, it also means that I think Bitcoin dominance continues down from here. Because we just range in and that's a continuation and then we fall down, but we haven't lost this key support level. So it doesn't have to break down from here, but I do think it's more likely that it does. However, there is still a world where this is just a pullback for Bitcoin, and I think Bitcoin will go parabolic at some point. Did I draw that? That's weird. Oh, it's a different Bitcoin chart. I think Bitcoin will go parabolic at some point. I think the moves throughout cycles, let me just get on the dailies. I'll get on the 3-day to show you more. I think moves throughout cycles should get more aggressive as time goes on. So what you saw, obviously, in this 2019 cycle is we had a push up, a pullback, then an aggressive move. And if you saw in the 2013, 2017 cycle is, the 13 to 17, yep. We started to push up, we had a bit of a pullback, and then look at how much more aggressive the move gets towards the end. And I'll zoom in just to give you a bigger perspective of this, or a better perspective. Obviously this looks pretty easy to trade because it basically just goes up, but these pullbacks are still pretty big. But what you can see is it gets more and more aggressive towards the end of the cycle. Now we haven't really seen, and that's the same in this last cycle too, even though chops here and then it gets more aggressive here and then boom, it gets really aggressive and then a pullback and then boom, almost a straight line up. So far here, it looks pretty similar to that of like this cycle. Like we're chopping upwards, and then boom, and then we chop, and then boom. And we're still waiting for those real big booms, in my opinion. So we're chopping up, we're waiting for a boom, and then maybe a boom. And the boom could only be like to 170 pullback and blow off, or it could be even less than that. It depends how fast and to what extent we really start to move out of this zone. So that's what I expect is coming. And then it's just about trying to maximize your returns, because if we think that Bitcoin's at like what, 2.5 trillion, something like that at the minute, and the whole space I think can go to probably 10 trillion ish this cycle. If Bitcoin's at 2.5 trillion and it's a, let's say best case, it adds on another 100%, or not best case, but a really bull case is it adds on another 100%. Bitcoin could go to 5 trillion, and then we've still got two things to happen from there. 5 trillion to add into altcoins. Well, not 5 trillion, but say 4 trillion, because there's about 1 trillion in alts at the minute. And then the rotation from Bitcoin dominance to also add into altcoins. So what I'm trying to say is that's clearly showing you the potential return on altcoins is significantly higher than Bitcoin from this point. So if there's only 1 trillion alts at the minute, and I think we're going to go to 10, for example, and Bitcoin does another 100%, so it adds another 2.5 trillion on to make it 5 trillion. That's still 5 trillion or 4 trillion more. So that just in of itself, if Bitcoin maintains the same Bitcoin dominance, should add 4 trillion to the altcoin market, or it has to realistically, if that's only what Bitcoin does, if that math is correct. Alt should do ish a 4x, and that's not even including the rotation from Bitcoin. So that's why people get so excited about alts in these time periods. I think ETH looks like it's ready to break out. Like if ETH breaks this level, we see that liquidity above, and it could really start to send, because we'll start to hit price discovery and the narrative will really come back for ETH and altcoins. It's just whether it's right now or not. And again, like I said yesterday, I don't know whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, or next month, but I think it's imminent. And I think XRP is similar. If we take XRP to the weekly, I think this thing looks fantastic. It's maybe even a bit ahead of ETH in this like sort of cycle. What we've done is we've broken our recent all-time highs. We've held them as support and held the weekly close above that. Yes, this week we're still testing this area, but the breakout should take us up towards $8 to $15. And that is what I believe. A lot of people call me a moon boy and stupid or whatever. I don't really care. This is what I think is coming. I keep trying to really drill this message in, because what I think is going to happen is everything's going to increase in value from here, realistically-ish. Bitcoin's probably going to do the least percentage wise, but I still think it's got a decent percentage to go. Probably from here, like 40 to 150%, somewhere in that bracket. And I think alts have a lot more to go than that. And that's why. And I bought Doge recently. As I've said to you guys, just more for a swing. Like if we get up to retracement levels, I'll probably start to DCA out. And we get up to like 117, 116, I'll probably be close to fully out. It's a swing trade. I think that Doge has these massive moves at some point in the cycle, normally around when retail come back into the market because they like Dogecoin. It's 22 cents and it's a dog, and that is literally as left curve as it comes. Let them do it, and so I'll position for it. That's all I'm doing, and it's a risk. Like there's no intrinsic value to Doge, and I could be wrong, but I'm willing to take that risk because I think the upside's pretty decent, and then historically it's come pretty quickly. Even this cycle, look, when we've had the moves for Doges on the weekly, the main moves just come in the space of like 1 week or 2-3 weeks. So there's the thought process there. It's not because I think it's better than XRP or any bullshit that people put, oh my god, do you not like XRP anymore? 95% of my portfolio is still XRP spot. So this isn't anything to do with XRP when I buy something else. It's just something that I'm looking at, and there's validation for why, or reasons for why I do that. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. I hope that you're getting a bit more of a picture as to where I am. I think we've started the breakout to all-time highs for probably most things, or started the move towards them. It's just whether we get that imminently or not. And I'm betting that we get it sooner than people think, especially when I'm seeing sentiment. People arguing in my comments, and we've got some potential catalysts coming up like tomorrow. And people think it's going to be a bit of a run-of-the-mill meeting, and they're kind of expecting downside. And I'm thinking maybe they're wrong. And if they're wrong, like I'm buying yesterday and today because maybe people start to price in the same thing as me. I don't know. So that's my thought process, and I could be completely wrong. But that's where I am. That's where I'm sitting. Chips are placed. Now all you've got to do is sit and wait, guys. That's why I've not been updating too much. I can't give you any new information if there isn't any out there. I just want to keep reiterating my thought process, tell you what I'm buying personally. If you don't want to follow along, that's fine. If you do, that's fantastic too. All I want is for everyone who watches this to do well. That's all I'm trying to help you guys to do as best I can. Give you the experience that I've gained from the 7 years or 8 years I've been in this space now. And that's everything. So if you enjoyed the video, guys, please do hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share it with a friend, and a comment below if you've got any questions. If you'd like to trade leverage, please be careful, but I have a partner link to WEX and MEXC in the description below. I use both of those for trading myself. And good luck. Don't over leverage yourself if you are going to leverage. You don't need to get stopped out. The worst thing you can do right now is to blow up any accounts. The best thing to do probably is put spot alts and shut your laptop, or really low leverage in my opinion, and just play some swings. Obviously, if you're looking to be a trader and you want to trade lower time frames, fine, do your thing. But for me, I make most of my money swinging. Sometimes hit it with a bit harder leverage on short term, but I'm less accurate with that. I'd say I'm probably like 55 to 60% accurate with that. And when I swing, I'm probably like 70 to 80% because it gives me time to continue to DCA on the downside. So, yeah. Anyway, peace up. A-Town down, as Crypto Insight UK would say. Thank you for watching.